You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Football Stadium Prince. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped!
Yes!
And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. It's Hutton now on the offense with the left foot. It is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
What is up, soccer maniacs? This is the People's Pitch Podcast, official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC. As always, I'm your host, Nate, joined by the 10 to my Hague, John Bisworm. John,
I think it's more of a heg.
Hag?
Heg.
Hag.
Like keg with an H.
Okay. Well, that's you. It's hard to wrap our head around this, man. We're only a week and a half away from actual Minneapolis City soccer, and shit has been just really busy from both a booth ops perspective, roster building, man. Everything is just crammed into these last few weeks. It's good to be able to find some time to do a show and just keep that preseason countdown going.
Yeah, it's been 0 hour, as we know from a booth team perspective. Like we're meeting tomorrow with to get the band back together. But yeah, everything's kind of come flying at us, and we'll talk a little bit about it today. So let's just get after it, man.
Yeah, a couple things to talk about today. We've got some club announcements that have been made lately that'll, like you said, kind of tie into what we've got cooking in the booth. There's lots going on at these games over the summer, and we want to touch on them because it's going to be super fun. And then we've got, for the most of the show, we've got special guests, Mario Wimberly and Kyle Johnson from Soul of the City's Futsal League. The conversation with them is going to be frankly amazing. So I hope you stick with us because I'm really excited to talk to them.
Yeah, don't get sick of Nate and I before this interview happens, please do so. But before we start, Nate, couldn't help myself. Have you been watching our big cousins across the river lately?
I have. I got to catch the game this weekend too. Got to watch it last night.
All right, so here's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
They have now had 4 games since we last spoke. And that the first of the 4 was that awful 1-0 loss to Austin FC. And that's the one where I told you, like, just go watch it and then tell me what you think. And I think that's where the cracks started to show. And it's so early for cracks starting to show. But in my opinion, that was the game where there was like clear issues. And I've put my finger on it. It's an attitude and a mindset issue that I have pinpointed to being from top down. And I'll bear with me. So players are kind of doing their own thing. Top down from a player's perspective too. Like not even like just like your stars, but also like Brent Coleman's like just going on an island by himself. You're like, where's this all coming from? So they look like they have no real plan. They're just kind of doing everything. They're yelling at each other on the field, which is like the first crack in the armor, right? Where it's like the infighting starts. Guys are being played out of their position of strength, which is odd. And just a whole big heaping bag of dysfunction that I'm seeing. But then they up and go on a 3-game run of wins with 2 easy teams, between Colorado and Chicago. Yeah. There's no surprise there. And then sandwiched in between that was, the road Open Cup match versus USL 1 side Ford Madison, which you kind of believed, like you saw this stuff happen in Detroit and you're like, well, maybe Madison. And then the lineup that United put out, I was like, this is a total trap for them. Like and it's like a rainy, shitty day in Madison. I was like, dude, they could get nicked here. And all signs pointed towards like they weren't really playing very well. Madison didn't play well at all, to be honest with you, from what I'd seen from them early in the year. But anyways, so then they get Forward Madison, and then from an outsider looking at it, you think they figured it out, right? Okay,
Mhm.
we righted the ship. We won 3 games out of the last 4.
We're back.
So we're back. Yeah, we're back. There are still problems, Nate. Look at their star player Reynoso. He looks like he's followed in the footsteps of other stars of the past under this coaching staff that is just doing what they want versus what's good for the team around them, as
Yep.
well as them like being used in it's almost like they're being punished by being placed in areas of the field that they aren't comfortable in and being like, now go perform over there because I told you to.
Right.
And it's just like, okay, that's weird. And then you have a designated player in is it Hunu? Is
Yeah.
that how you pronounce it?
Oh,
in
yeah.
Hunu, who's been nothing but a shell of the player that was thriving in both the French first and second division before coming here, which is interesting to me. And then he's cast away to playing meaningless games with the MLS Next Pro second team. and then
Which is
like
pretty brutal.
Yeah, and then getting like the start in like the Open Cup game, and they're like, "He's back, folks." And you're like, dude, this guy probably is like, "What the hell did I sign up for?" Like, can you imagine going from even the French second division to playing for Minnesota United too? Like,
No.
like what? I'd be like calling my agent right away, like, "Hey, so here's the thing. I'm never doing this again. Like, get me the hell out of here." And then you have Tyler Miller, who was a former fringe U.S. national team player, who's just like sitting on the bench outside of that Open Cup game and also playing in second team games where he's not being supplanted by some guy named Dick and like a 19-year-old Fred Hemmings. So it's like something weird's going on there. When they should clearly, like yesterday, deal him for whatever they can get for him that could be valuable to their team, right? Like, just get the guy out of here because you don't need it. You don't need 2 number 1s in the MLS. Like, when has a team ever had that? So that's weird. So there's 4 goalkeepers on the roster, which is another weird thing. But so you have that piece, and then I think that there's many more issues that we could probably address if we had like 3 hours, but we don't. We have a lot more shit to get into. But are we finally at an impasse where they clearly need to move on from Heath in order to give the fan base like what they truly deserve? Like, we talked about the fan base kind of being an afterthought, but like there's people who are still like ride or die, and they're getting nothing from in the form of a trophy when they probably should have, to be honest with you. So are we stuck in that vicious cycle again of like a few hapless wins covering up for like super big issues that keep Heath around just long enough to repeat the same shit again like 6 games later? Or am I just like an outsider thinking this?
No, I mean, I think that sounds exactly like what's going to happen, right? Is this idea that as long as we stay competitive and make the playoffs,
everybody makes the playoff, probably,
right?
Besides like 4 teams.
Right. So it's like, I feel like the standards might be a little low. I don't think unless the wheels totally fall off and the players stop playing for the coach altogether or something like that, like nothing's going to change. Like, but you brought up 3 really good points around the roster, John, that goes back to our big issue from a few weeks ago that we talked about. The question of is it the roster building or is it like the game day tactical lineup decision that is the problem?
They have the fucking players.
Yeah,
like,
well,
they do.
Sort of. I mean, first, like you said, this Hunu question. This is not only a guy who he came from France, but I think if I remember right, he was playing with his hometown team.
Yeah,
like
he
grew
from like
up there.
A really good spot.
Yeah. And he looked a little bit like a flop last year, and like you said, this season he's basically been demoted to the kids table. But his stat line from League 2 speaks for itself. So like, why can't he succeed in the MLS? Like, what wasn't clicking? If you whether it's from on the scouting side or whether it's on the management side, if you bring in a proven goal scorer with one of your DP slots, like you kind of got to figure out how to use them.
Right.
So either you realize when he's here that like this guy isn't all that he was cut out to be. We got to cut bait and free up that DP slot, or it's like, what are you doing?
Well, it's not even that he can't play. He can play. But then they're like, maybe he should be a 10. And you're like, so like his whole entire career, including in like the best league in France, they're like, they got it wrong.
They got it wrong.
All these goals.
But the MLS is different, John.
Yeah. And it's like, and he's not like, look at the strikers that they brought in before him. I mean, Amaria is a little bit of a different scenario because they're kind of built the same way. But like Amaria is, I think, a better like proven like just like natural goal scorer, and like
Yeah.
Hanu's got to like do a little bit more to score his goals and like work a little bit harder because he can't do it by himself. Like he's like a guy that like gets on the end of crosses a lot, and he doesn't. But he's not a guy who's gonna beat you 1v1. I mean, he can, but doesn't really do it very often. But it's like then they like. But you look at like all the other guys are like big oafs that like run around up top and just like chase down long balls and like knock down things to like a number 10 who can finish. And it's like then you bring this guy in and like the whole fan base, it's all into it. Like this guy is legit, comes from France, like he's the guy. And then you look at how he's being used, and it's like besides being demoted to the kids table, it's like even when he was on the field, it was like this doesn't
look good.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
and like
he didn't fit the system, or the system they were running didn't whatever.
Before you get into your second point, we haven't even talked about is how Robin Lode was used. Like when he first got here, and everyone's like, "This guy sucks," and I was like, "Actually, he's probably our best player. He's just not being used, right?"
Yeah, and he did. I thought he sucked so bad. I was so anti Lod, but now I mean, I don't know if he figured out or if the team figured it out how to use him.
The difference between the two of them is like he would go on international duty and he would perform, and then they were like, "Oh, wait a second, that's how you use him? Okay, we'll try that." And then the dude starts scoring goals. It's baffling to me. Like I don't know where the decisions are coming from, and I don't even want to speculate who's making them. But like at the end of the day, who puts the team on the field and tells them what to do?
Right.
It's not coming from a guy sitting behind a desk. I mean, suggestions are probably coming from them, but anyways, go to your second point.
So secondly, I think your Tyler Miller point, I'm less upset about. Like this feels like a case of Heath going with a hot hand, and that really sucks for Tyler. But it's looking more and more like Dana's the guy, right? So if we can find a taker for Tyler Miller, that would be optimal. And we really could use some of the pieces that maybe we could get, the money or a couple players to help my third point, which is, of course, we talked about how this team is really hurting for depth off the bench, and they're trying to get you excited for guys like DJ Taylor or Nico Hansen or whatever, and that's just like not going to happen. And it's truer than ever now that you've got Hassani out for the season, you've got Chase out indefinitely.
He's back now.
Is he back with the team? That's good.
Well, guess where he was for like 2 games?
Oh yeah,
playing with
I know
the second team.
Well, he had to kind of come back because he had his little.
But still, like he's playing with the second team, and then the second team goes and they're like, "We won 3 of the last 4." It's like, yeah,
I wonder why.
Yeah, and like Abu Danlandi's getting minutes there, and you're like, what? So many things wrong. I don't even want to get into it.
I think this Hlungwane guy is looking like a pretty good pickup, but otherwise it feels really hard to figure out who's going to help us push for goals with some of the offensive options we have, kind of from a depth perspective, and that depth is off when, like you said, they're putting Reynoso way out of position.
Like playing him out wide. The guy plays no defense, and he's not paid to play defense, to be honest. But yeah, it's
so like
go ahead.
You wonder if that's is that a roster building thing? Is that, like you said, just Heath being like, I'm just going to put you here to figure out if you've got grit,
or are you going to do what I tell you to do? Or are you going to go to the kids' table like the other guys? Like he's using I think he's making examples of people to try to like make other people like take notice, but he doesn't realize what he's doing to the other people who he's making an example of. And you're like, dude, but like, look at like the infighting I was talking about. The 2 number 1 culprits for the infighting that I saw were Reynoso and Amaria, which are the 2 guys you need to lock it. You need locked in.
You need to make them happy.
And then you got Lode on the outside. It's like, just pass me the ball, do something with it. But those other 2 guys, like Amaria would make a run, and then the ball would be like out of bounds, and then Reynoso would be like, "You're supposed to go over there." It's like, well, yeah, motherfucker, I'm not over there. I'm over here. Like I chose to go here because I'm also open over here. Like that. Now it also is showing me why, from a national team perspective, that Reynoso, who is so dynamic on the ball, isn't even anywhere near the national team with Argentina. Even when he was in Boca, and he wasn't even regularly in with the first team at Boca either. So they're like, you can see why they probably were like, yeah, you guys can have him. Here's his price, and then
plays for himself.
Yeah. Then when he left, they probably threw a huge party. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like I still watch the games, and like even watching the game yesterday, I was like, it's happening again. I'm like it, and like there's going to be a really bad, disappointing match coming up here in the not too distant future where
LA
you'll get
Galaxy.
yeah, and you'll get some sound bites from the coach. You'll be like, I thought they didn't work hard, and all like tearing the team down through the media, and then like throwing them out there with like what looks like no clear direction or direction that they don't really believe in, but they kind of have to try it to see if it works. And then if it doesn't work, half the guys are doing what the coach said, and half the guys are like, this doesn't work. And I'm waiting for Arriaga, who I think is a great pickup. Like
Yes, I agree.
I still think that they never should have gotten rid of Gregish, but like if you did and you got that guy, I'm okay with it. But like as soon as that guy gets angry, it's all gonna go to shit because Will Trapp is gonna be a good soldier to the general, and he's gonna do what he's told. But Arriaga is gonna be like, I don't think this is working, and he'll be gone too. Anyways, we can talk about this. I mean, we're like 15, 20 minutes in here still talking about this. But no, I just think that I brought it up because it's like, it's the pattern starting again. And I felt like I was the only person thinking it. So I'm glad you agree with me, Nate.
Yeah, I think we just need to see a system that carries us through the big games as well as the games we should be winning. And then I'll start to think like, there's going to be a little more soccer in the fall for us.
Yeah.
But like you said, right now there doesn't feel like there is a system, and we usually will get smacked down when it comes to game against Portland or a game against Seattle or a game against LA coming up. And like you said, like what you asked me right at the beginning, what it's going to take. And I think the thing with the MLS is the wheels have to totally come off. Like look what happened in San Jose, right? That guy just literally stopped managing.
Yeah.
He wouldn't answer questions in the press. He basically stopped showing up for work. And it still took him until like the seventh week of the season to fire him. He wanted out and he stopped working. It's like a kid that just stops showing up for school. Like it takes a while, but the teacher will finally fail you. So
my last point here before we'll clearly move on is like, say that this situation happened at Minneapolis City. Like me as like and I don't know what happens behind closed doors over there. So I'm not even gonna pretend, but like if it was us and like this stuff was happening, like as a senior member of like the back of the house, I would like have a conversation with not only the coaching staff, but also like Adam. And I'd be like, what's going on, man? Like, just tell me before I like tell you what I'm seeing and like, just hear about it. I don't know if that's happening over there. I think that like, maybe I don't think people talk. And like, if they do, it's just like, what's the bare minimum conversation we can have? Because we clearly we don't see eye to eye. But anyways, so we move on. Anyways, back to our little set.
Let's talk about City.
Vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we briefly noted that there was some club news that hit the streets this week, the mean streets this week that we wanted to mention, and that's the announcement of that Minneapolis City is doing the most minor league thing of all minor league things, and that is game day promotions, Nate.
Yes.
Yes. The state is no stranger to when it comes to these types of experiences at the lower level, with the gold standard, in my opinion, of them all, with the St. Paul Saints having like a proven track record of all these sorts of things. And our little engine that could, soccer club, is throwing their hat in the ring and following suit. So before we get to all that, are you two questions for you? One, what do you think of this type of stuff?
I like it a lot, John. I think
I do too.
I think it's, I'm not the guy that's going to say it's super gimmicky. I think it just makes the game way more fun. It brings more people to the stadium. It's easier for people to bring their friends if something more fun is going on. The Saints games are great. It's easier to watch players that you might not be super familiar with or super invested in when you've got other stuff going on around the stadium. So I like it a lot. I think it's going to be, plus it just makes the team feel like a real minor league team.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Johan here. It's getting late. We're doing all these interviews. Excuse me. I agree with you. I like it too. So for all the reasons you said, there's not much more for me there. So number two that I have for you here is, do you have like any favorite game day promos that you've seen in the past by sports organizations?
Yeah, I mean, minor league baseball pretty much takes the cake across the board. I think there's a lot of great like apparel and stuff tie-ins, but until we get a sausage race, John, our game day is going to feel incomplete.
As I'm literally wearing a Brewers hat right now.
How about you? Have you seen a favorite?
Yes. So I have a St. Paul Saints favorite, and it's a little bit of a story, but I'll be brief. So I moved here in 2010, and everyone's like, you gotta check. Even people in Milwaukee are like, hey, how close are you to St. Paul? Like, you got to check out a Saints game. So they're over at the Midway, not far away from my old South Minneapolis duplex my wife and I lived in before we got married and moved to the burbs. So we like hop on the bikes, load up the beers, we ride bikes to the stadium, and it's just a blast. Like we like walked into like a tailgate that someone else was throwing. They're like, yeah, come on over. And I'm like, this reminds me of Wisconsin. I love it. So then I get into the game and I was like, this is awesome. There's a pig that's like getting the bats and like all this stuff. And then come the seventh inning, they had the seventh inning fan of the inning, and they like randomly selected a seat. So they like call out in the sixth inning, like the winner of the seventh inning fan of the inning is seat number whatever. And then like this lady stands up and she's just like the happiest person since like she found out that there was sliced bread or something. And so she is like, everyone's cheering, and then she just is whisked away by like the promotions crew. And then I go get a beer and I come back and we're sitting like kind of third baseline by the outfield. And I look at the outfield wall, and this lady is sitting in a chair that is built into the outfield wall. Like she's physically in play. Like if a ball is hit off the, like but here's the thing, she's strapped in with like, they had to like, and I asked my wife, I was like, what, how did she get up there? They're like, oh, they brought like a ladder, and then like two guys hooked her in,
like
and then
a seat belt. She's like sitting in the chair, like it's a carnival ride or something.
It's like a jump seat, like in a plane, you know, like a cargo plane. Like she has like race car seatbelt, like and like she could probably get herself out, but then she's like 12 to 20 feet in the air. Like, what are you gonna do? Jump? Like, and this lady was. I'll just put it this way: this lady did not. She wasn't in shape, if you know what I mean. There's like, so she goes the first half of the inning. They don't hit a ball out of the infield, and then like they're like, give it up for so and so as the fan of the inning, and she's like cheering and stuff. And then the opposite team is up, and the first pitch, the guy ropes one off of the bat, and like I think it's going out, and everyone's standing up, and then it just nails her in the chest, like just square in the chest. And this lady, you can like almost hear the air come out of this woman.
Thwack.
Yeah, like, and then she's like, and then like the outfielder like just picks up the ball and fires it in, and then is like not paying attention. And this lady's like physically injured. So they had to stop play once like the ball got to the infield, and then the guys had to come out with the ladder and haul this lady's ass off the wall. And so that was my favorite promotion, and I think it's great. I think every Major League Baseball or minor league baseball team should do this because it was awesome.
Put one of their fans as a target.
Yeah, and then it made me think of two things. Well, one, like next time I went back, the seat wasn't there anymore, so they clearly figured that one out. But two, have you seen Bull Durham? Bull Durham?
Yeah.
Where he like tells the guy a fastball's coming and he hits like the bull, and then he's like, and then the catcher goes up to the pitcher. He's like, man, he hit that thing like he knew it was coming. He's like, he did. I told him. And he's like, man, I think that guy won a free steak at the steakhouse because he hit the ball. And I was like, I'm thinking like, what happens if you hit the lady? Like, do you get like a free mattress or something, like something weird, you know? Like,
like when they were brainstorming that, they were like, but what happens if someone hits a ball at her or hits a ball at whoever? So like, no way is that ever going to happen.
This lady got smoked.
Got him.
Well, it would be like us putting someone, like strapping them down to a chair in the goal. Not like on the end line, but like in the goal.
in the corner.
Yeah, just hanging from the corner and like in play. And then like a penalty being taken, and it's like that person's getting hit. That person's getting hit. But anyways, so yeah, that'd be my favorite. That was my favorite by far.
Well, City has some awesome promos coming up this summer that the team was announcing, and each one of them is just blowing up. Like the first one, of course, is that due to playing at a couple different high schools for a little blip in May, because they're redoing the turf, I think, at Augsburg, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So both May 20th versus Peoria City is at Breck, and May 27th versus Dakota Fusion at Blake is, since they're at high schools, we're calling them prep weeks. And so the team made the polos of the freaking, it's like you replace the horse with the crow, and we got the Ralph Lauren crow polos that are for sale. Plus you get 2 tickets for only $40. Like, that's a really good deal. So you can get your tickets and your polos on the website. You can show up to prep week looking fly. You can get a couple different polos and pop the collar on both of them, whatever.
I think I mean, I know who came up with this one, and I think it's brilliant. But yeah, it's kind of, I mean, who is it making fun of? Like, and also, like, I feel like we're playing
It's a
Peoria
victimless
City.
crime, John.
We're playing, yeah, it is. We're playing Peoria City on the 20th. Like, we're not making fun of them or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're playing like Dakota Fusion, who, I mean, like, they have no cares in the world about anything, it seems like. So it's like we're playing 2 teams that, like, this wouldn't offend them. But, like, I do feel like if this were some teams, not going to name them, they would, like, figure out a way to be offended by this. And then it'd be like a call from the league.
100%. Like, well, our city has a high percentage of preppies, and it's obvious that they know this. Shut up.
Yeah,
the second one I want to talk about that's awesome.
Too big.
Oh, right. The second one I want to talk about that sounds awesome is Fight Night. And I'm not sure why they picked this team, but it's when we play the Minnesota Twin Stars, June 8th, we're calling it Fight Night. And you can dress as your favorite wrestler from the past or the present, along with and then we're going to also do some sumo suit wrestling at halftime. That sounds like a good time. We dabbled last year in halftime games, and they were fairly entertaining. So I'm glad we're extending that trend into this year and busting out the sumo suits for Fight Night, because that's going to be a good time.
So it's fine. This is what I was talking about in the last promo, where it's like someone may get offended. Like, someone could get offended here, but like we got the sumo suits, and it's all in good fun, and it's not like we're not saying like anything. We're something might be implied, but we're not saying it exactly. But like, I think that you, instead of dressing like your favorite wrestler, maybe like your favorite boxer. Like, what if someone showed up as like Butterbean, or like.
Butterbean. I think a lot of our fans could show up looking like Butterbean. I don't know, John, who's your favorite wrestler? Who are you going to show up looking like?
Oh, no doubt, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Hey-oh.
Yeah,
I'm going Tugboat.
Or Coco Beware.
Coco with the parrot.
With a parrot. I think that's I think you and Nordo, who like to wear your Proud Boys your Proud Boys Hawaiian shirts in the booth, should definitely go with Coco Beware.
No way. That's so good. Maybe $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, Undertaker.
I could do that.
Or Paul Bearer, maybe. Like, go a little bit outside the box.
Looks super creepy. Yeah, Paul Bearer.
Mankind. Just have the sock.
He's great.
Maybe that's one of the weeks where like Nordo can't make it, and I just do the commentary by myself as Mankind, and I have the sock puppet with me.
I wonder if we tweeted Mankind if he would show up. What's his real name? Mick something? Anyway.
Nick Foley.
Yeah, Nick Foley. Yep, Mick Foley.
I mean, honestly, like, I don't want to speak ill of Nick. Is it Mick or Nick
it's
Foley?
Mick. It's Mick with an M.
I don't want to speak ill of Mick Foley for what he probably could do to me, but I feel like the revenue streams might be a little bit dried up, where you could probably get him for like cheap cameo fees to show up for that one.
Maybe. I don't know. He might just show up just for fun. He's kind of a character. The next one I want to talk about, that's really my favorite one, and this one's been top of mind for me for a couple of days, is we're doing meat raffles, John. June 18th and June 25th. Thanks to our sponsor partner Kramarczyks, the amazing Polish deli up there in Northeast, that we're giving away meat. So everyone gets a ticket with their admission, and I'm just going to be calling numbers throughout the game, and you're going to win all sorts of delicious things.
Dude, I love it. And this takes me back to when we held the NPSL meetings, and Dennis Crawley from Stockade we took him to a bar we took him to what you call it, down by the old shop.
Yeah.
What was
The Cardinal.
The Cardinal, and they had a meat raffle, and he was absolutely floored.
No, it's not a thing that really is. It doesn't exist anywhere else except for the Midwest.
Yeah,
it's really something I'm learning lately as I talk about the meat raffle to people I work with.
And like he was just like, wait a second, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's a meat raffle. You just like pay for a ticket, and if they call your number, you go to like a cooler and you pick out some meat. And he's like hamburger meat? And I'm like, maybe. Could be a steak, could be like some brats, could be whatever. He's like, then what do you do with it? I was like, well, I don't know where you come from, but where I come from, you cook it.
What do you do with it? You eat it, dummy.
And he's like, well, what if I win? And I'm like, then you win meat. And he's like, well, what do I do with it then? And I'm like, that's your decision. You won it. And then he leaves and he comes back with a whole pocket full of numbers.
What do I do with it? Don't just stare at it. Eat it.
He won nothing, but he was so into it. But I think the meat raffle's great. I'm looking forward to it. And Kamarchek's has some decent meat. So you're definitely going to walk away with something good. But from what I hear, these are just the taste of what is going to come. There may be some other announcements for a few other future promos for home matches this summer. So come on out and get in on the fun. To learn more about these and all future promotions, head on over to mplscityfc.com and check out the schedule. Or as always, you can keep an eye out on Twitter. There'll definitely be some cool Twitter posts around that stuff. But yeah, I'm into it.
If you're plugged into the grassroots game here in the Twin Cities, our next guests are going to need little introduction. Both of these men each have a like-minded vision, and they are the spearheads of two organizations that folks around our Minneapolis City soccer ecosystem should become very familiar with. We are pleased to welcome Mario Wimberly of TC Seoul and Kyle Johnson of the Karen FA. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the show. We've already talked a little bit off the air about how excited everyone is, so this is going to be a good time.
And also, we've talked about how difficult technology is.
It's true.
Thanks for having us on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, guys, on the platform. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so we typically, guys, like to start off with kind of the same question for all of our guests. So why don't we start with you, Mario? Tell us about your soccer journey. Are you originally from around here? Did you play around here? How did you grow up with soccer?
Oh, great question. I'll try to condense that a little bit. I know we have a limited time, but I'm a Minnesota kid. Grew up in South Minneapolis. I found the game actually. My parents are from the South. They moved to the Twin Cities when I was 2 years old, and we moved to Minneapolis. And then we're looking for a different environment. So my mother moved to the suburbs, and during recess is actually where I found the game. Kids weren't playing anything else, so I want to thank all those kids if they're listening. Appreciate it. But picked up the game, fell in love with it. I was playing other sports at the time, but just fell in love with soccer. That '86 World Cup kind of did it for me. I was watching that and Maradona and all the excitement that went along with that, and it's something I just kept playing. Went on to play for a lot of clubs, local clubs here in the area, probably at least 5 clubs. Back in this is mid to late '80s, so kind of dating myself, but I've been on the Minnesota soccer scene for a while as a player. It's where I started, and then was fortunate enough to play in the ODP program that here in Minnesota. Also played at 4 years varsity at Washburn High School in South Minneapolis.
Sweet.
And then I was fortunate enough to go on and play at Howard University out in Washington, D.C.
Nice.
From there, stepped away from the game for a bit, had my son, and that got me right back in. And that's when I began coaching. My daughter came along, and then I started coaching rec soccer, coached travel soccer, and then from there it just goes and goes. But that's the short version.
That's awesome, man. That's you've got some deeper soccer roots in the cities than most of our guests, so that's really exciting to hear.
It's pretty cool. I think it's mainly because I'm an older guy, but yeah, for sure.
Kyle, same question for you. What's your soccer background?
So grew up here. Grew up in Highland Park. My my parents were big soccer fans. We had season tickets to the Kicks. Was out at Met Stadium kicking the ball in the parking lot before games.
Nice.
I remember some of those games, and those were the days of when Pele was at the New York Cosmos. So,
Oh wow.
I'm dating myself a little bit as well. But yeah, my parents were big into the game and got me into the game. Played rec ball growing up, and then got into the local club scene with the St. Paul Blackhawks. Started like around 10. I made it through junior year of high school. I played pretty competitively, and then I burned out. I ended up quitting my senior year of high school. I was slated to be the captain of the team and everything, and I just didn't love the game anymore. I didn't want to have anything to be a part of it. So moved on, and then much like Mario, I had kids, and my oldest got into playing, and kind of did some coaching, really focused on opening up gyms for players and bringing players in. Actually got to meet Aaron Olson, who's a city alum. Is he still with the team this year?
He
I don't know.
is. I think we're gonna have to forcefully remove him at some
He
point.
is.
Drag
He's
his body
incredible.
out one day.
Yeah.
He's incredible, just like a solid person through and through. And so, got connected with them, and then hooked up with a lot of the local communities in town here, ones that sit outside the mainstream system, and it's kind of where I'm at right now.
Kyle, I empathize with you. There was a point in time in like the early 2000s. Now's when I get to date myself a little bit. But after playing at a high level where soccer was my full-time job, and I got done and I moved back to Milwaukee, and I just like I burned out too, where it was like I didn't even want to watch soccer on TV, which was so hard for me to like wrap my head around it. But I just like I needed to step away from the game for a little bit in order to like bring it back into my life again to at like such a passionate level. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people like think about like, you get bit by the bug and then it's there for the rest of your life. But for some of us, it's not the case. Like you just kind of fall out of love with it, like you do anything that you're passionate about. But it always seems to creep back in somehow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, that's why I love working with Mario, because, Mario and I, we have a lot of the same visions on things, but like, it's really about the love for the game, having fun with the game, giving kids opportunities. And, I see it more now and now where kids have the potential to get burned out a lot quicker than when I was in junior high and high school, just because, they're one sport athletes a lot of the time. I think something that goes unsaid is that when Tony and Manuel and, at the St. Paul Academy of its heyday, all those guys were three-sport athletes. And look where they ended up. I mean, they played at the highest level. They were all three-sport athletes. I mean, even, you go beyond soccer and you look at Matt Burke and Joe Mauer, all the Cretan kids, all those guys were three-sport athletes too. So, I think we got to be very careful with the kids and make sure, especially at a young age, that they're having fun with the game, right? That they're really enjoying the game.
Well, actually, would have dovetailed a little bit off of what you kind of started talking about. I was going to ask it a little bit later once we learn a little more about your organizations, but now seems a good time to kind of move that one up the list. How did the two of you end up coming into the like? How did your soccer soul, Kyle, and collide with Mario's soccer soul, and you guys start working together?
Great, no pun intended. Well, fortunately, we were Coach Matt. The first team coach at Minneapolis City, great guy. Right after maybe it was after the George Floyd and the uprising. I think between that and I think the pandemic was, that stuff is like a blur now, but I think it was all around the same time. But he had put together just like an informal group of coaches. We called it the Good Guys of Soccer. It was a pretty cool group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's actually reunited, I think here actually today maybe. But it was probably like, I would say maybe 5 to 10 coaches. And we would just get on the phone and just discuss the game in the local area. Well, the game in the broader sense, but also the game in our local area, Minnesota soccer, and specifically what could each of us do individually and collectively to make the game better. It's pretty broad, but that's kind of what the purpose of the group was. So I got to know Kyle and a lot about the things that he was doing in his community. And I was, I had so much respect for this guy. I tell him that all the time. And just what he's done, he's selfless, giving a lot of himself, his time to the community, and really using the game as a tool. So we met through this group. And then once we started learning about each other. And I noticed right away, like, hey, we have a lot of things in common. He was just kind of doing things on the other side of the river, as we like to say. But what happened was, at the time, TC Soul was doing, we had started doing free clinics in North Minneapolis, just trying to bring some access and exposure to the game in that side of town. And we couldn't go inside any longer because of COVID. So, I think Kyle and I and Matt and maybe a couple others, we chimed in, and we were like, we had a free clinic coming up, and we were like, hey, can we all just get together and just amplify this? Just come out, let's connect with the kids. So I think we had our first unofficial outdoor free clinic in North Minneapolis at North Commons Park, and it was TC Soul, it was KFA. The Minneapolis City players came out, coaches came out. We had great kids from the community. And that's kind of what got us together. So from there, then, we went on to our bigger vision, or not bigger, but our next vision. But that's how we that's how I remember it. Kyle may have something else to add.
No, that's you're spot on there, Mario. I think collectively the two of us have always seen the game as a vehicle to really bring kids together, and now more than ever, we can really unite communities and get them to experience, just each other as people through the game. And so, Mario's vision on that, my vision on that, it's something that not many people are looking at, right? A lot of people are looking at, straight wins and losses, and I think for us, wins and losses is really connecting communities.
Correct. Great.
Nice. Mario, it was only I feel like it was only a few years ago that TC Soul started to pop up at like Brian Katrine's futsal league at the Y. I know you guys made some appearances in tourneys locally and down in Kansas City. And at the time it kind of felt like it was like a futsal super team for that that 07 age group, right? 06 to 08 or something. Isn't that? My kid's about that same age, so that's how I kind of remember that. Talk a little bit about the early days of TC Soul and how it's evolved to what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, like you said, those were the early days. Probably around 2018 or so. Just got together with a friend of mine, and both of our kids were pretty good little players. And from a playing side of things, I feel that futsal is just something that all kids, as we know in Europe and South America, a lot of kids they play futsal and soccer, but then they have to make a choice at probably their teen years. So some keep going with futsal. I just think it's a great game, just for the to become a more skillful player, a better player. Younger kids get tons of touches, tons of touches in the game, and things like that. So, pardon me, guys, I lost my train of thought. Where's I going with that?
Early days of TC Soul, how it's evolved, yeah.
Sorry, get off my stuff. Yeah. So we put our team together, entered a lot of tournaments, good group of kids, a lot of kids that I had coached, from various prior years before. We got all the kids together. And, we entered some tournaments, had some success. Like you said, we entered a lot of local leagues and tournaments. Kids were developing nicely. So on the playing side, everything was great. But I felt that there was more that we could do through the game. When I started reflecting on my experience and just the financial barrier that my mom had to endure just so I could play the game. So at that point, I wanted to kind of reimagine some things and see what more can we do with the game through futsal, because I knew that for me, access, was a big piece. So we kind of, came up with 4 core principles at TC Soul, which are fun, development, community, and accessibility. So everything that we do now and pretty much from, the last few years, they're all centered around those 4 core principles. So we're always, interested in developing kids through the game. But as we know, the bigger win is developing good people, because some kids just want to play for the social piece. Some kids want to go on and play in college or pro. But one thing about the game is we know it's the world's game, and it brings everyone together. So we just try to do as many things we can around those principles.
Nice. Kyle, how did you come to know kind of your side of the partnership? How did you come to know the Karen Football Association? How did you end up leading their soccer organization?
So, my oldest son, who got really involved in the game, was fortunate enough to be a part of a string of a run at the state tournament during high school. So he went to Como Park High School. They had made 5 straight state tournament appearances. His freshman year, they won the state tournament, and he was just like super fortunate to be a part of it. And there's a number of the Karen players in the St. Paul City Conference, and so many of them went to Como, a handful of Washington and Humboldt, and so I got to know the community through there. And where I really got into things and really saw things it was around his junior year of high school, and so we had gone to all these state banquets, and one thing stood out to me that year, and that was that on the boys' side, the teams were starting to become much more diverse, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you had some teams like from Austin, from Worthington, from Faribault, that were becoming more diverse, and it made sense because you would have refugee and immigrant families moving to some of these smaller towns because of work, right? There's
Yep.
a lot of factory work in some of those towns. So on the boys' side, they were becoming diverse. But then what I really noticed was that on the girls' side, it wasn't diverse at all. Right? You still had the very affluent communities were representing the girls' side, and I saw something different. Right, being at Como for 3 years now, I saw some amazing athletes, young women who were just incredible, and so I told my son, I said, listen, I want to kind of devote my time right now and providing some of the same opportunities I provided for him, but for young women who obviously deserve the opportunity. So I started opening up gym spaces, talking to the schools and getting more time specifically for these girls in St. Paul. Well, I ended up coaching at Como for a few years and really getting to know these players. And, for example, I had a player, my first year of coaching at Como, she came in as a freshman. And her 4 years at Como, she was an all-state high school player. She had never played club. She had only done pickup, right? She had just played within her community. And she was this incredible athlete. 3 of the 4 years, she was in like the top 5 of the state in either goals or assists. And that was like A and AA. So, I mean, wow. She was a phenomenal athlete who nobody knew about, right? Because she wasn't in the mainstream system. And so, like, she is just an example of so many young women in not just the Karen community, but in all of these communities out there that don't have the same kind of access and opportunity that some of these other families do.
Oh, I want to put a pin in that for later. We'll talk about that. I've got a question about that coming up, but that's amazing.
Yeah. And then kind of just through some connections I had, it turned out that the Tibetan women's soccer team was we have. I didn't know this before, but we have a large Tibetan population within the cities. And they were trying to bring in the women's national team for a friendly and to stay here. And it didn't work out. But I learned about an organization called Kanifa. And that is, it's like FIFA, but it's for stateless communities around the world, right? And so they were giving them this opportunity to have a national team, all of these different communities around the world, a national team, even though they didn't have geographical borders that they could call their nation. And so I learned about them, and I'm like, man, the Karen community really deserves to have this opportunity. There's so many great athletes, both on the women's and the men's side. Like they really deserve to have this opportunity. I never thought like I would get it if I would apply, right? Because here I am in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm not Karen, right? I've worked with a lot of the Karen athletes, both boys and girls, but that was in on the high school level. I never thought I would get it, but I was like, what the heck? Why not? I'm gonna give this a shot. And so I applied and went through the process, and they were like, hey, we think this is a fantastic idea. You're in. And at that point, I was like, wow, what just happened here? And this is a much bigger deal than I thought. And so that's how KFA started. And I saw this as an opportunity. I had been working with the girls on the girls side primarily for about 3 years now, and I saw this as an opportunity to really promote gender equity, right? Because and do it in a bit different way. So the way that I look at things is I think it's fantastic for organizations around the world to be giving more women opportunities. That's great. But at the end of the day, usually the men and the boys that have to change their mindset, their perception, the way they talk about women before we're going to really make any serious change on gender equity. And so I looked at this as an opportunity. Like I'm a big believer in role models. And so here, by having two national teams within the community, we've created two sets of role models, right? We have the set of role models who are women. And I tell this story about Suni Lee, the U.S. gymnast. And I said, 2 years ago when Suni Lee won the world championships, I said, watch, we're going to see within the next 5 years this huge influx of young Hmong girls wanting to be gymnasts because of one person, because of Suni Lee, right? It's this whole idea of see it, be it. When you can see yourself in a spot, like you're going to aspire to get to that spot. And this isn't just in sports, this is in life. And so with the women in the Karen community, if now all of a sudden we have a women's national team, now we have all of these young girls that can say, hey, that can be me. Now, if we have these women who are going to college to play, hey, that can be me. I want to do that. So we've set up the role models on the women's side that way. On the men's side, right, it's the same thing, right? It's the see it, be it. Yes, I mean, look at you. I love what City's doing with the futures. Like you've given so many opportunities to many of the current players. I mean, it's huge. It's that whole see it, be it thing, and it's been big for the ones that have been a part of that. But on top of that, if the boys who are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old in the current community are looking up to these athletes who are men who are saying the right things about women, doing the right things, right, treating women the right way, then we start really penetrating. Then we start really talking about a generational change in terms of gender equity, right? And so I just thought this was a huge opportunity to really make a dent in that and make some real influence on the lives of both the women and the men within the community.
I think we touch on this occasionally on the show, Kyle, but I think you're making an amazing point even in just this short amount of time about how the game of soccer can open so many conversations around equity up for so many different people, and I think that's really valuable.
For sure.
It is. Absolutely.
So Mario, when the casual soccer mind spins up the TC Soul website and sees things like you mentioned a little bit earlier, but like focus on player development, creating opportunities and accessibility for young players, encouraging creativity and passion, implementing curriculum that supports a whole player's development. A lot of this resonates with what we tried to do at the senior levels at Minneapolis City. There's a lot of youth options around the cities. Your focus has been, teaching this in some of the communities where the options are somewhat limited for many different reasons. What have you seen in is the most successful part of your organization's mission on players that stands out the most to you? And are there any maybe underlying organic transitions for a youth player that completes your program and steps into maybe what Jeremiah, Brandon, and Eli are doing with the Futures program as they age out of your program?
That's a good question. Can you repeat the first part again? I'm sorry. I'm going to take notes here.
If someone's, doing the research and they're the casual soccer, supporter, or they're looking maybe to get one of their kids into soccer, and they pull up your website, it's focusing around development, creating opportunities, making things accessible, the encouragement of creativity and passion for the game, all the good stuff that like folks like us are just like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. But what have you seen, with that focus in the teaching that you've done with TC Soul? Like, what stands out to you as, the success story with the program? And then how do you see that maybe being a transitional platform to maybe what we're doing with the Futures?
Gotcha. I would say all those things that you mentioned, but I think really there's so much potential in young players. I mean, when you start this game, pretty much for the most part, a lot, the young kids start at the same place. I mean, culturally, the game is bigger with some communities, so there may be a little head start. But I think that accessibility is probably, we have a lot of success stories around that. One in particular is we had a young man who he lives outside of the Twin Cities, and there's a financial barrier with his family, which as we spoke earlier, just excludes a tons of kids. So he found us and was able to come to one of our cost-free clinics. And his family traveled far. I think it was from far south and came all the way to North Minneapolis just for that opportunity. Phenomenal, player for his age, loves the game. One of my proudest moments was when he was selected to be in one of the top clubs. I'd say one of the top clubs in the city. Selected them, to be on his team, and he received a scholarship to play. So that was very important to us because a lot of teams and clubs they focus in on the technical or the tactical, which is important when you're talking about player development. But I think what gets lost in the youth game is the people development, and I think a lot of that is just because when you get the finances involved and you have people that are they're trying to make a living or partial living, and we get caught up in wins and losses and tourneys and traveling. All of that stuff is cool, but for us, it's like I said, our 4 core principles. So the accessibility has to be the biggest one. In that community, that kind of comes with that. I mean, we have kids from every community. We have Hispanic kids, we have American kids, we have Black kids, white kids, we have Asian kids. And they're all meeting through the game. So a lot of the people that even are helping us with this league that we want to talk about, they're people that I've known 30 plus years and I met through the game. So really connecting community and accessibility are the core principles. Now the other two, fun is paramount. You must be having fun. If you're not having fun, the kids aren't going to connect to the game. And then, of course, the technical and tactical, those are just the playing pieces. But I would say that piece would definitely connect to getting kids like to a Futures, with a solid playing foundation. And I think that starts with just basic ball mastery, having fun, small-sided stuff, foot skills and things like that. But so I hope that answers your question. But those are the parallels I see right there.
No, absolutely. I mean, when you look at what the Futures program has brought to our organization to help that pipeline of younger players kind of move into the senior team, it only makes sense that our organizations are connected, because it's kind of an what you might call an adult extension of what you're doing. We only deploy players from Minnesota. We don't go out and bring other players in. We want to win a national title with Minnesota-based players. So it seems like, that there's a nice organic transition into the opportunities that we have with our Futures program, and also it being accessible with the scholarship opportunities that we have there, that it's a nice move for players that are kind of aging out of what you've already established.
No, I would agree 100%. And I think you guys are doing an excellent job with the Futures program. I'm pretty familiar. I've actually sent a couple players that way. So I think that's an amazing asset for our state for young players because we have a lot of clubs and things, but we really need to get more kids having this opportunity to soccer can change people's lives. That's just the reality, and I've seen it happen. So as long as we can continue, with programs like Futures, KFA, and what we're doing, I think we can make that a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kyle, our organization and yours have come together in the past, whether it be last year's preseason friendly that we had in downtown, which was a great opportunity to bring everyone together. You already mentioned a number of players from your organization are under the city banner in one way or another. Our goalkeeper coach, John Pucci, we share him. So he's another one, a little collective resource sharing there. Why do you feel, Mario talked a little bit about it, but why do you feel that your organization and our organization, outside of maybe Matt Van Benscoten, have collided so well so far?
Well, listen, I'll be completely honest. You guys have been genuine, you've been authentic, and you've been real. Too many times have I seen, I look at the talent, and we'll just say the current community right now, and you've seen some of the talent that has come through with, this new batch of futures, but also, look at with Mutu and Ekuse. I look at these players, and they are individually far beyond a lot of the kids their age. When they were in high school, they were just so much further beyond, and they'd never played club, right? They learned their skills, their abilities, like through their community, playing with older guys, right? A mixture of things. They've learned their skills on their own. And too many times I've seen other clubs come into these communities and cherry pick these kids out of these communities. And that's not helping the community. And then these clubs will go on and they'll claim that, yeah, we developed these players. No, you didn't develop the players. You came in and you took them because you knew they could help you win, right? Don't ever say you developed the players. And it bothers me, right? Because they did not do a great job of connecting with the community, seeing why these players are so good, right? I've always said, listen, these youth clubs need to bring on some of the players, the older men, whoever's helping train these kids, bring them into the club, truthfully connect with the community. But they're not. They're just cherry picking players. And so, I think City has been very genuine, very real, very sincere about the process that they take and the reasons you're doing it. Right? I would never want to put a player or suggest a player go into an environment that I don't feel is going to be right for them, that I don't feel that the intent is right for that player. And so, I think that City, truthfully, is the only one that I've seen doing what you do in trying to connect with the communities in a very real way.
Well, I appreciate that. That's the focus. I think we've all seen the dark, seedy underbelly of soccer at all levels, and it just sucks when you see all that happen, and you're like, it's not the point. It's not about stuffing the resume of a DOC so that they can take their next job through on the backs of kids.
Exactly.
And it's there. It's tough to see. It's tough to talk about, but it's real. And whenever you can break that mold and really get down to the core things about why we all got into playing soccer and how you can move people on into their own individual successes with you or without you, that's really the point. And it's tough for people to hang their hat on that when the almighty dollar is at stake. And it's about winning and making money. So it's there, but that's why certain organizations like your guys are truly like the crown jewels that people need to hear about because of what you guys do. So I have one more question before Nate has another one. But this one, obviously getting to the most pressing topic at hand, each of you have a ton going on with your respectful programs and everything that you guys are doing. But there's a collab happening this summer with the Souls of the Cities League. I'll open the floor to either of you, whoever wants to tell us about it. And of course, what can we maybe do to signal boost this? On the show, how can we get people to help? Like, what do you guys need? And how can people find out about it and get involved?
Mario, you want to jump in?
Hey, I can't. So yes, Soul of the Cities. This is a big bang. That collaboration. KFA and TC Soul, we partnered last year for the inaugural season of the first that we know of serve to play futsal league. So you hear a lot about pay to play, and we all know what that is. We've talked a little bit about it here earlier, but serve to play. We just our principles and of both of our organizations, we which are similar. We put it together and said, hey, how can we have more access? How can we shine the light on kids from various communities who are not in that traditional system, and how can we best serve those communities in which we play? So we came up with Soul of the Cities League. We played in North Commons Park last year in North Minneapolis. We were about 4 to 6 weeks long in the summertime, around July, running from all the month of July into August. Last year was I think into the first week of August. But what we did was, we started this league. It's cost free, but you must serve 1 hour of service. So it's 1 hour of service, 1 hour of play. And we also provided free lunches for everyone because we are aware of food insecurity. That was something that I learned a lot more about just working in some of my my cost-free clinics, that a lot of kids weren't having a nutritious meal, and we know that sucks. You can't play soccer if you're hungry. So we came up with this league. A lot of community help. Like I said, City was a big help. A lot of community partners in North Minneapolis as well, and outside of the city. And we had in-kind donations, and we had sponsorships. So we had some bigger companies involved. U.S. Bank was one, Mortensen, a lot of local businesses in the area, and they put up dollars so that the kids could enjoy this league and meet kids from different communities. We had kids from every community out there, and it was a really a big success, and we felt good about it. So the big news is that we're back again for season 2, and nice. We want to be even bigger and better. We want to serve more, and we want to reach more kids. Last year we had 720 hours of community service that was done by all of our kids.
Wow.
Oh wow.
We planted 100 new trees in North Minneapolis. We had 160 youth players involved. We donated 150 swimsuits to the local pool there in the community. We had 720 free meals, and we cleaned 75 drains in the Minneapolis neighborhood. So this year we have some more fun community projects that we're putting together as we speak. And we have some really exciting teams involved. And that's where we are. I'll let Kyle speak a bit, and then I can piggyback in.
So this year we've really connected with the local high schools, and it's a very diverse group of local high schools. I think one of the great things that we recognized last year was, when we talk about diversity, there's also the aspect of socioeconomic diversity too. And we thought it's important to bring in really everyone. And so last year we had Fusion come in, and the families from Plymouth and Wayzata, which was incredible. To have them, play in North Commons, and then also interact with a lot of the kids in the different communities that we have, and so we're doing that again this year, and so we have we're going to be in St. Paul this year. So we're actually, there's a couple of really great futsal courts connected to Johnson High School, and so we're going to be on the east side of St. Paul this year. playing there and doing a lot of the community service work there. I think the new thing that we have for season 2 is this: we've started a program called Community Champions, and what we're going to do is we are raising money to donate to a handful of the teams that are going to be involved within our league. So, as a former high school coach, I know how hard it is at times to raise money for the teams and to get the right equipment and we want to have nice stuff for the kids to give them a good experience. And so, for instance, Jonah Fields, the boys coach over at Como Park High School, I've known him for a long time. He is incredible at finding all of these unique ways to get money for the boys program at Como, and year after year he's at the state fairgrounds shoveling horse poop out of the stalls, right, to raise money for the program. And
Wow.
they get a tremendous amount of money. I was lucky enough to do it myself, go help out when my son was there, and it's a ton of work for these kids and the people involved. But that's how some of these schools have to raise money, right? And so we see this as an opportunity to make a donation to boys and girls high school teams or grassroots organizations that we know these funds could really help them in their efforts in providing good opportunities for kids. So we're really excited about that.
That's awesome. I got one more question for you guys. We got about 5 minutes left, so I don't want to sorry to try to cram this in at the end, because I think you can unpack this for its own show. But we know that there are a lot of soccer loving minority communities here in the Twin Cities, whether you're talking about the Karen, the African American community. You've got Luis doing his thing with the Revolution League, Mexicans, Ecuadorians, Somalis, Oromo, Tibetans, which I just learned about today. I was years old when I found out about the Tibetan community here. The list goes on and on, right? Like, what work needs to get done? This is the crux of the question. What work needs to get done to close the opportunity gap and get kids who aren't as plugged into the academy system noticed by colleges and higher level teams, and give them the opportunity to continue their education and their development?
Well, what comes to mind for me is two things. Again, we're always coming back to the same thing, but there's that financial barrier. I just think that we're just missing too many kids, and we have to be able to have the proper people out identifying those kids. So we need more programming, similar to what Kyle and I are doing. I think we need we need to put the kids from, there's a lot of kids in certain communities in inner city who, there's tons of talent all over the place, but we're just not able to get those kids in position to be seen. So when we can put them on a platform, so to speak, or, in the spotlight, I think that's important. So I think we need more programming, because listen, the talent is here. The talent is in Minnesota. The talent is in the United States. This is a fact, and I stand by that. But now, are we doing the best job of making the game as accessible as we could? I say no.
I'd agree. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it also has to do with some understanding, to be honest with you, right? I think that coaches, college coaches, pro coaches, have to start getting to know people in these communities. And I'll speak specifically for the young women that I work with in the Karen community, right? They live a life where they are specifically told by their families that they're not supposed to play soccer.
Yeah, there's a social construct in a lot of these communities.
Absolutely.
I think you touched on it with the Suni Lee thing too. If you see it, there's some permission there now.
Right.
You're absolutely right. But deep in these communities, there's this, especially for the girls, right? They're not supposed to be playing. They're not supposed to be in athletics. That's not success. It's a waste of time. And I think having a real understanding of where these kids are coming from, what their responsibilities are. I have, 14-year-old kids doing their family's taxes.
Wow.
I have a hard enough time doing my own taxes.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh.
there's these responsibilities that both the boys and the girls have within these communities that the soccer community has to like really get a better understanding of where these kids are coming from.
Sure.
And how does that relate to the game? How do we get them into the game?
Well,
And
guys,
I think
it's been amazing talking to you. I want to make sure we leave the listeners with a way to learn more. So if we could, where can people go to get in contact with, to learn more about TC Soul, to learn more about the Karen FA, and to learn a lot more about Soul to Cities League?
Well, for playwithsoul.com, and that's Soul, SOL, playwithsoul.com. And that's our website for the league. Learn everything about the league that we spoke about here. There's also a donation page if you're feeling in giving mood, please do. Like I said, we have a lot of initiatives that we want to hit this year and invest back in the community. TCSoulFutsal.com is our website, and also at TC Soul Futsal on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
And then for the Karen Football Association, it's KarenFA.com. And then on Instagram and Facebook at Karen Football Association.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been a wonderful conversation. Really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to working more with you throughout the summer, and looking forward to seeing each other at our events and our games. So again, thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday evening, and get ready, because more soccer's coming all summer.
Oh yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you both.
Guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks,
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's show, folks, and thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. If you're in the market for supremely curated soccer-focused graphic design on anything from mugs to t-shirts, head on over to footballstadiumprints.com and fill your cart up. You can even get in on their NFT game. If you follow them on Twitter, there's some really cool stuff that Steve's got going on there. So check them out. And don't forget to use the code CROWS10 for 10% off everything you purchase outside of those NFTs. And remember, all U.S. orders ship right from these here states, so there's no pesky international shipping charges. If you're like me, and like you mentioned last week, got taken to the woodshed as well by Uncle Sam, remember that MPLS City SC is a 501c3. That's a lot of letters right there.
Mm-hmm.
Consider
in numbers.
Consider beefing up your tax-deductible donation ahead of next year through a charitable gift to the club. If you're interested in getting a hold of us, it's really easy. We've made it super simple. We mentioned it in the last section, in the previous portion of the show. It's simple. You head over to the website at mplscitysc.com, on Twitter at mplscity, or through the show at the People's Pitch, or via email mcscpodcast@gmail.com. Super easy. Super hard to say, super easy to do. So that's all for this week's show, folks. I am John. That, of course, was Mario from TC Soul, and Kyle from the Karen FA. And, of course, that was Nate. We are so close to firing live bullets, friends. So now is the time with all these promotions to go out there and get those tickets. Go to mplscitysc.com, get your tickets. And, of course, we got love.
I love meat.